Welcome back to the Wicked Game podcast. It's been a while, it's been a minute. I'm so sorry, everybody. I've not been able to put out much content recently. I know you'll all be very glad that I am back, at least for the time being. I'm sorry, it's just been very busy at the moment with work. I've also got our wedding in a few weeks' time, so I've been very busy planning that. And as well as that, I've also been trying to obviously play a lot of games around said life as well. And with all the work and wedding prep and game playing, it's quite difficult to find the time to actually record some content talking about the games I've been playing and fitting that around my life as well. But hey, that is life. That happens to the best of us, that happens to the worst of us, that happens to all of us. But we're here today, and that's the most important thing. And I'm very excited for this latest edition of the Wicked Game podcast. Firstly, I just want to apologize for the bad audio quality today. I mean, to be fair, it's always bad. I mean, I've got 12 subscribers. What do you think? This isn't going to be the best podcast you've ever listened to, guys. Come on. But my main microphone is actually not working today. I've stupidly sent my fiance away with the only cable that seems to work with this microphone, so I can't record using that microphone today. So you've got this Bluetooth one, so the quality won't be as good. But as I say, I've only got 12 subscribers, so it's not like quality is the thing that I aim for here. What I will say though about this is I was going to go live today, because I have very little time to do editing, so I'm just going to go live on YouTube with this and then upload the audio to Spotify. But unfortunately, I didn't realize this until today. You need 50 subscribers on YouTube in order to go live. So if you are listening to this and you are not a subscriber to the Wicked Game podcast YouTube channel, please do drop us a subscribe, because then we can just go live whenever we want to. And I promise you, we'll do it more regularly than we have done over the past few months. But it's been a busy few months as well, busy few weeks in the gaming sphere. A lot has gone down. There's a lot of news for us to discuss. I've had quite a busy day today myself, but I really wanted to jump onto this and record a podcast because we are long overdue. It's my fiance MK's hen do today, actually, and I thought I'd treat myself as well. So I've been out this morning for a haircut and a facial as well, and also did a little bit of shopping in town as well at the same time. It's my brother's birthday next weekend, so I did a little bit of shopping, bought him a couple of gifts. One of those gifts is actually in the background of this video right now, so this is a test to see if he has watched and listened to this podcast episode, and if he has, he can probably spot it in the background somewhere. I'm going to be a little bit rambly today. I don't have a proper agenda. I've also had like 2 cups of coffee, which may not seem weird, but I gave caffeinated coffee anyway at the start of this year. And will only very, very rarely occasionally have a caffeinated coffee. And when I do, it kind of makes me a little bit trippy. And I had one this morning. I had a flat white, and then another one this afternoon on the way back. And it sort of tripped me out a little bit. I don't drink either or do drugs, obviously. But when I do have caffeine on those very rare occasions, it really does mess with me. I was on the train this morning and coming back, reading some Stephen King whilst listening to David Bowie's Heathen album and Hours album as well on the way back, whilst jumped up from all of this caffeine, and so I'm a little bit overstimulated today, so I may ramble quite a bit, so I do apologize in advance if that's the case. I've also just realized as well I've returned from town and I totally forgot to pop into any of the CEXs in and around Oxford Street. I don't buy from CX regularly. I go through phases where I'll get obsessed with game collecting, and I'll go there and like buy up a lot of the PS2 games that I had when I was a lot younger, to fill the shelves. Very rarely actually plug them in to try and play them, but whenever I do go to an area where there is a CX, I like to pop in occasionally. I did pop in to a game actually very, very quickly in the back of a Sports Direct store, which is basically the only place you can get games, video games here in the UK. The store is called Game Itself. And they now are located in this sports clothing shop right at the back usually, and it's usually very badly stocked, as it was today. I want to go on another rant about this. Actually, no, I'm going to go on a rant about this now whilst I'm on it. So it's so depressing that these little game huts that are in the back of the Sports Directs, they're so pathetic. I mean, we used to have a couple more gaming shops here in the UK. Now we basically just have Game, and it's terrible. The worst thing about it, though, is that they never seem to stock new games that have just been released that week. So I had this problem back when Expedition 33 first released a few months ago. I went into a game, I think it was the day after launch, and so it was that period where people had started to play it and started to go, actually, this is something special. So I raced to the nearest game that I could find, went in there, no, we don't have it in stock. Okay, fair enough. Maybe it's because the game was a little bit obscure, pun intended, during those first few days. We weren't expecting it to be such a hit that it was. Fair enough. Returned to a different game last weekend looking for the new Mafia game. No, zilch. Even spoke to a member of staff in there who was completely unhelpful. There's not really any dedicated game staff in any of these game stores. I think it's mostly the staff on Sports Direct. And it wasn't. They weren't helpful. They didn't have it in stock, which is really disappointing. I had to go to an Argos where the lady who served me had to check with a colleague to make sure that I was over the age of 18. And the day that I went and bought this game was on my 35th birthday. So that's quite amusing. To be honest, I should take that as a compliment that I look like a 17-year-old boy, really, shouldn't I, at the age of 35? So that is my little bit of a rant about Game, the shop. It's so depressing what's come of it, and it's so difficult now here in the UK to actually go game shopping and to browse games in person. Say CEX is a pretty good. You have a CEX, which is our version of a secondhand gaming shop, and you get them in towns and cities all across the UK, and they're great to go into, but obviously they don't have any brand new games. They're all second hand. In fact, if you try and go into Sex and trade in a new sealed game, they will not accept it. They will ask you to take off the shrink wrap, and then they'll give you a second-hand rate. That's the only way they can do it. They can't take in first-hand games, and they can't sell first-hand new games either. And so there's nowhere you can really go to browse games, and I do find it very depressing because I do like to go into a physical shop on the day that a game releases and actually purchase that game, but apparently you can't do that anymore. And that's really sad. And I wish it was different, and I wish I could say that I would like to someday open up my own game shop where I sell new games, but there must be a reason why nobody does it, probably because it doesn't make any money. And we don't have any GameStops here. I wish we had a GameStop, but nevertheless, that's not happening. Anyway, so let's talk about what we've been playing recently. I'm going to firstly start with a game that I just mentioned. It's the new Mafia game, Mafia: The Old Country. I didn't hear anything about this game until the day that this was released. All I saw online was people talking about, moaning about how this was a 10, 12 hour linear story focused game. And I thought, bloody hell, that sounds just up my street. That's exactly the sort of game that I like to play. Something that is, gives me vibes of Uncharted and Last of Us, God of War, that sort of single player linear action game. Sign me up. Great story. So I decided to check out some of the trailers, and hadn't played any of the other Mafia games before. Seemed like something that I would enjoy. It's also the setting of this game is the early 20th century in Sicily. I went to Sicily a few years ago, and we did a road trip around the island, and it's such a beautiful setting. And that is the thing I want to talk about first about this game. The setting is beautiful. Sometimes I just like to stop in the game and just take in the surroundings of it. It does have somewhat of a open world aspect to that, to the game, in that you can just jump in a car and pretty much drive anywhere really, as long as within the confines of the story. But it is very much a linear game. It is very much a story based game. There is a lot of cutscenes in this. The actual gameplay itself, the action is a little bit clunky at times. It's not as smooth as something like The Last of Us, or a game like an MGS title where you can go prone and jump and skid when you're trying to get cover from enemy fire. But it's still fun to play. I'm having a blast with this. I've always wanted, recently, to play a game that's, as I say, like a 10-12 hour single player narrative sort of game, rather than these huge bloated 40, 50, 60 plus hour Ubisoft open world games. I just want something that's like old school PS3 to PS4. And this is really scratching that itch for me, and I'm really happy with it so far. I think I'm about halfway through. I'm hoping that after I record this podcast, I'm going to go downstairs and smash out the rest of this game before MK gets back from her hen do, before I have to pick her up at 1 a.m. when she's drunk at the train station. But we'll see. So yeah, really enjoying that at the moment. I've also recently played, as you'll probably guess, Donkey Kong Bonanza. This is I finished this a few weeks ago actually, and I meant to do a video on it. I was going to do a final thoughts video. Maybe that will end up being this video, or maybe I'll record another one later. I was going to do a final thoughts video on this, and before that I was even going to do a first thoughts video on this, and I even started planning the script for that. But I wanted to prioritize actually playing the game rather than making content, and at the moment I'm really struggling with finding that balance actually, because I want to be able to talk about something in the content, and to do that I need to play the games, obviously. Anyway, I finished this a few weeks ago now. I think I bought it on release day. Yes, I think I did. Bought it on release day and finished it within, I think, a couple of weeks. First things first, this game is addictive. There's something about smashing up destructible environments that I find so satisfying. And it really, for this game, it really did scratch that sort of one more level itch. Or maybe not one more level, because the levels in this are fairly big. But, I just wanted to keep playing this like for, 15 minutes more, half an hour more. Particularly within the first half of the game. I think the first half of the game is much stronger than the second half, although I've read online that a lot of people would disagree with that sentiment. For me, towards the end of this game, it did start to get a little bit repetitive. But at the start, the first half, really enjoyed the collectathon style to this. It was really addictive. I just wanted to smash up everywhere and collect everything. It's so addictive to just find bananas. It sounds so ridiculous when I just say it out loud like that, but it really is. And then obviously they play the little animation that we've all seen once you get a banana of banana, and it's really fun, right? And the combat could be improved upon, in my opinion. I didn't really enjoy the boss fights. For the most part, the boss fights were very, very easy. So one of the things I dislike about this game is that 99% of the game is probably too easy. But then I really struggled with the final boss fight. In fact, so much so that I actually rage quit. But it was one of those things where I came back then the next morning and then beat the boss first time round the next morning. So maybe I was just tired. Who knows? But yeah, the game is a little bit easy, and then there's a huge difficulty curve, I think, in that last boss battle, which wasn't great. I didn't feel like I was using some of the new abilities as much as I could have or should have, but a lot of the time I felt like I had to force myself to do that. There's a skills tree in this game, but again, I didn't feel like it was ever needed. I wasn't terribly sure where I was supposed to put my skill points or banana points or whatever they call them. As a whole, look, I think this is a fantastic game. It's really enjoyable. It's, the best game on the Nintendo Switch 2 so far, I'd probably say. Although there's not really that much competition. It definitely shouldn't have been the launch title. That definitely should have been Mario Kart. Look, that just appeals to a wider market. You can pick up and play that game so easily, less so with this. And now that I finished it, I don't think I'll ever return to it. I'm sorry to say. It's, revolutionized the Donkey Kong series, but I don't think it's revolutionized gaming in the same way that, Breath of the Wild did, or Super Mario Odyssey. Really is sort of a mashup between Super Mario Odyssey, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and Donkey Kong, of course. But it doesn't revolutionize the gaming industry on Nintendo in any particular way. Fun. I'm glad I've played it. I don't think I would give it any more than like an 8.5 out of 10. I know a lot of people have given it a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I just, for me, don't think it reaches that. I had some graphical issues with it as well. The frame rate stuff, I know a lot of people complain online that the frame rate dips every so often. Look, when you've got an indestructible environments, that is going to happen. And there was only one point where I actually really noticed it dipping, and that was, I think, during the final boss fight. But apart from that, I was just like, it's fine. You have to make those sacrifices for fun and mechanics, and that's what we got here. We got a really fun game with lots of destructible environments. So of course, frame rates are going to dip a little bit every so often. So yeah, I don't take any points from that. However, though, sometimes I did find some of the destructible environments, especially when you're like digging and going into like creating tunnels and going through the earth. Sometimes that became very clunky, and I couldn't really work out on occasions where I was, and the camera angles weren't great. And when you have multiple things in screen in front of the character, in front of Donkey Kong, DK, then you almost saw like the graph lines of the where the devs had created, obviously the build of the things on screen. And that annoyed me. That kind of broke the immersion, if you can really say that about a Donkey Kong game. But that sort of annoyed me. And again, you have to make those sacrifices for this sort of game, for this sort of fun. But I didn't like seeing those grid lines, those graph lines, and that happened pretty much every time you try to dig down into the core, into the earth. And to say, a lot of the time I got a little bit lost as well, and with the camera, and didn't know really where I was, and I struggled to get out of holes sometimes, and that was a little bit frustrating. I also think I loved the music in this. From Pauline, right? But I don't think it's used as much as it should be. That was sort of in the second trailer, that was sort of the big USP for this game, right? That you had these abilities because of Pauline and her singing. But the singing barely comes into it. I mean, yeah, I'm just looking at the back of the case here, and it says, unleash your wild side with Pauline's singing. And yeah, it does. Pauline's singing does create the transformations that give you new mechanics. But I thought Pauline's singing would be more, have a bigger part to play in the actual game itself and in the gameplay. And I thought the songs would be used more as well, which they're not, which is a shame. I feel like I've just been moaning about this game a lot when I've just said it's like an 8.5 out of 10, which is a very good game, which, on my rating is a great game, and IGN's rating is a great game. And it really is, and I did have a lot of fun with it. But I think the problem is I loved this game during the first 10 hours of the game, and I was turning to my fiance in bed and saying, this is fantastic, I'm having so much fun. I couldn't, it was getting to the point where it was gone midnight and I was still playing it. I didn't want to put it down. Maybe I just like burnt out on it too much during those first 10 hours and played it too much over the first few days. I don't know, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Would recommend it, despite the fact that I'm being a bit negative. But yeah, I kind of fell out of love with Donkey Kong Bonanza fairly quickly. What else have I played? I don't think I played anything else since we last caught up. Fast Fusion on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think I only started playing that after my last podcast episode. But I did release a short on that, so do watch that. So Fast Fusion is like a Wipeout styled futuristic racer game. It's only a few quid on the eShop. This was released, I think, at launch, and it is a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. It is download only, eShop only. However, this was kind of the stopgap for me between Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Bonanza, and in some respects it's better than Mario Kart. It's very quick, fast, and fun, so I would recommend that as well, I say, because it's only a few quid on the eShop, so it's definitely worth it. Right, so we've spoken about the games that I've been playing recently. Oh yes, one last thing I wanted to say about Mafia. I read something online recently, yesterday in fact, that apparently it's sold 800,000 units as of this week, within the first week of launch, which I think is pretty good. It's not incredible. They really need to be smashing that million plus mark for it to be incredible. But it's not bad. I think if I was 2K, I would be fairly happy with that, and think that that's probably around about what they were expecting. So we'll see. I think it's one of those games where people are probably waiting for this to either appear on subscription services on PlayStation Plus or Xbox, whatever it's called. I've completely forgot. Game Pass, which I'm sure it will within the next year or two, or waiting for it to go on sale at 20 quid or 30 quid, which again I'm sure will happen in the coming months and years. So I think it's one of those sort of games that will sort of be a bit of a slow burn. But yeah, I hope it's a success. I mean, I haven't played any of the other Mafia games, so maybe I should go back and play them. I wish I had the time to do that. But there's quite a few upcoming games as well that I'm looking forward to at the moment. We've got Metal Gear Solid Doubters going to be out in a couple of weeks' time. Is it next week? No, I think it's 2 weeks' time. Really looking forward to that. I'm going to try and pick that up on release day and play that weekend. The Metal Gear Solid franchise is one of my favourite franchises. It does look like it's just a reskin of the original. There's nothing that's revolutionised it at all. But I just want, it's just an opportunity to play that game again in modern graphics and with modern mechanics and controls, and so I can't pass up on that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've actually just purchased the Metal Gear Solid collection, the Volume 1 collection, on the Nintendo Switch, actually. That's coming on Monday. I bought it on Amazon, I think, yesterday, because I really would like to play a little bit of that before MGS Delta comes out. But as I'm saying that, I know full well that that's not going to happen. What I've been doing for the past week, every night for the past week, I've been watching gameplay of the first Metal Gear Solid on YouTube before falling asleep, because I just find it really relaxing and fun. I'm also, speaking of Hideo Kojima, that chap there, I also haven't played Death Stranding 2 yet. Really want to. The graphics on that look fantastic. It must be the best looking game ever at the moment. Definitely at this generation so far. So definitely looking forward to playing that. Sounds like from the reviews that it's just Death Stranding 1, but even better, more Death Stranding, which is fine. I'm totally happy with that. Looking forward to playing that. Also really want to, and I suppose we'll get onto that in a little bit when we talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct situation. I'm really looking forward to playing, actually. There's a new book game that was released at the Indie World Direct. Hang on, let me look. I've just got my Switch 2 here. Let me take a look to see what this is. Tiny Bookshop, that's what it's called. It's a new indie game where you essentially are running a bookshop, and I kind of want to play that at the moment. It is 20 quid though, which is quite a lot for an indie title, but it has just released, and I have received for my birthday a voucher for the eShop, so that might be the first game for that I play. I'm actually looking for a game to play actually on my honeymoon. As I say, I'm getting married in a few weeks' time. Obviously, we're going to have a honeymoon as well. So I'm looking for a game that I can play on the honeymoon and the days leading up to the wedding. And I think that might be it. I'm going to be spending a total of 6 hours or so on a flight, and maybe a little bit of time by the pool. So I don't want anything too intensive. So that might be the game that I pick. Let me know down in the comments what you think I should play on my wedding week and my wedding honeymoon. Wedding honeymoon, my honeymoon. Yeah. I think it's going to be the bookshop game. But let me know what you think I should play. It doesn't have to be wedding themed. It's just something that I can pick up and play and not, take too seriously. I was also thinking about maybe Hades, because I never played that. So that would tick that off the list. But I actually have bought a new console to take with me on the honeymoon. You can see it in frame here. I recently bought a Nintendo Switch Lite. So you're probably wondering why, and I bought the Zelda edition as well, because I think it looks pretty freaking cool, the Hyrule edition. The reason why I bought this, a lot of people are wondering why I purchased this just a month or two after the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. Well, number one, I wanted something to take on holiday with me that was small and compact, but I didn't want to take any of the DSs. I wanted to play something that was a little bit closer to the current generation. Didn't want to take my Nintendo Switch 2 because I didn't want to get it lost or broken. It's also a bit too big as well. But the number one reason why I bought this, and I feel like I've justified this already, is because I had a worry that Nintendo Switch 1s and the Lites and the OLED models would shoot up in price after the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. I got stung last year, recently, as many of us did, with trying to find a new Nintendo 3DS XL. Those skyrocketed in price over recent years. I managed to get a hold of one last year, but it was extortionate. You could buy a brand new console for that price. So I assumed that all of the Nintendo Switch 2 models would go up in price at some point. I actually expected this more from a second-hand case, that the consoles would become more sought after with retro collectors in the years to come, the skyrocket in price that way. But lo and behold, as we know, a few weeks ago, Nintendo actually decided to raise the price of new Nintendo Switch Lite and Nintendo Switch OLED models. So I received this for an absolute steal. I got this off eBay and I'm so glad that I did. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to do a video on this actually explaining what I just explained actually, of why I decided to purchase a Nintendo Switch Lite in 2025 after the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. I'll do a little bit of an unboxing with it as well. I have taken it out already and turned it on to make sure it does work, and it does, which I'm very happy about. You can't always guarantee that with eBay these days. So I'll probably do a separate separate video on that shortly. I say that, but I won't get around to it, will I? I'll be too busy with my life and with gaming, but I endeavour to. And so this is probably the gaming console that I'm going to be playing whilst I'm on my honeymoon. So please let me know what you think I should be playing on this. Very excited. It just suddenly thought, is that tiny bookshop game Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive? Looking down at my Nintendo Switch 2 right now to see if it is. I can't tell. I don't think it should. I mean, it shouldn't be. It could definitely run on the Switch one. And now the Switch has decided to crash in error code. Lovely. Anyway, I digress. So that's what I've been playing recently. That's what I want to play over the coming weeks and months. I now want to talk about the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Direct situation that's going on at the moment. So a few weeks ago, we were all getting very hyped about a July Nintendo Direct, and we got one, but it wasn't what we were expecting. Firstly, we received a partner showcase, which I got really hyped for. You may have seen one of my You may have seen one of my shorts about that, and there was a lot of speculation about some of the games that we were going to see revealed on that, but it was sort of a damn squid, really. So what were some of the games that they announced for this? I'm just taking a look at the Switch 2 now, so I can go over the list. So Monster Hunter Stories. I know a lot of people are quite big fans of that series, but it's nothing that's going to, change the world. We already knew about things like Star Wars Outlaws and, Madden and Hyrule Warriors and stuff like that. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. So this seems to be like a HD 2D Zelda style RPG, which actually looks pretty cool. I think there is a trailer, a demo that you can actually access now. Might do that. Persona 3 Reloaded, new Octopath Traveler. I think everyone's kind of burnt out with Octopath. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, that was rumored, but again, it didn't really change the world, and that was pretty much it. It was so underwhelming, and we all thought that now the more souped up and powerful Nintendo Switch, we're going to get a lot more third-party support with like current generation games, but maybe not. There are rumors circulating at the moment online that actually Nintendo didn't send out many dev kits to developers, to third parties, and maybe that's why there is a little bit of a delay in us seeing some of these bigger, meatier third-party titles. But let's wait and see. I also speculate that something else might be going on here, or hope, but I'll get onto that in a moment. Then, I think a week or two after that, we had a Indie World Direct. I'm not a huge indie gamer fan. I think that's mostly because I struggle to find the time for gaming as it is, that I don't really have the time to squeeze in indie titles in between the big, third party, first party AAA releases. I know that's sad. I'm not saying AAA gaming is the only form of gaming. I do play indie titles every so often. Spiritfarer is one of my favorite games of all time. Doki Doki Literature Club blew my mind. Fast Fusion, I've talked about. These smaller titles are really important. I do enjoy them. However, it's not my jam. We had Mina the Hollower announced, which was made from, or is developed by the same studio that developed Shovel Knight. Tiny Bookstore we've already talked about, and a few others, but nothing that kind of blew our minds. And I think a lot of people were hoping for something with regards to Hollow Knight Silksong, which we of course didn't get. So that was a bit underwhelming. The third party showcase was a little bit underwhelming as well. So a lot of people are now scratching their heads wondering what's going on at Nintendo HQ. We still do not have a release date for Metroid Prime 4, which is promised to be out at some point this year. There's a lot of stuff that we are still don't know about, not just this towards the end of this year, but also next year as well. A lot of people are starting to get a little bit bored of the Nintendo Switch 2. There isn't much for us to feast on at the moment going forward, or for us to look forward to going forward, which is a bit odd because a lot of the rumors and the speculation was that there was going to be a lot. So my theory, and this is purely me speculating, this isn't a rumor, this isn't a leak, this is me just speculating. I think, or maybe I hope, that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct soon, a proper one, so that we had a trilogy of Nintendo Directs, and a lot of the smaller, less exciting titles were announced in the indie world and in the partner showcase. But because there's so much stuff that Nintendo want to get out and tell us about, that they saved a lot of the good stuff and separated that out for a special Direct, the third of the trilogy that was going to come at some point in August. And in that, we're going to see Metroid Prime 4, and we're going to hear more about what's happening next year, maybe a new Mario, Who knows? That is what I'm hoping. I'm interested to see what you think. What do you think is happening with Metroid Prime 4? If there isn't a release date announced soon, it's likely that we're not going to get it this year, right? Unless they decide to shadow drop it, which is a bit weird. I did see somebody actually have a good theory about Metroid Prime 4, and I can't remember the date, so bear with me. Take this with a bit of a pinch of salt. If you recall, a few weeks ago there was an advertisement on the London Underground of Metroid Prime 4 being out now. Obviously that was a mistake and it got taken down, but somebody noticed that the date that was on that in June was I think it was the 11th of June. And so somebody speculated that perhaps the mistake was them getting confused with the American dates. So here in the UK, we do day, month, year rather than month, day, year, because, we're sensible. And so a few people were speculating that maybe, therefore, that the game Metroid Prime 4 is going to be released on the 6th of November 2025. That could be the case. Who knows? That's just something that I saw in passing online. So we'll see. But I think there is a little bit of worry now that maybe Prime is going to be delayed, and maybe a lot of other stuff is as well. But it just there's just like the feeling at the moment is of a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Just like it's a little bit barren over at Nintendo HQ at the moment, and there's not a lot for us to really look forward to. So I do hope some more games will appear very soon and we can start to get some more information. As I say, I'd love it for there to be a trilogy of Nintendo Directs and for this proper Direct to be the culmination of all of that. But we will wait and see. I feel like it's just going to be one of these things that just goes on and on and on now forever, that we just, every month, we just have this rumor mill of, is there going to be a Nintendo Direct this month? And it just constantly goes on and on and on. So let's just wait and see. There was actually a little bit of drama with the Nintendo Direct from another content creator, a proper content creator, over at Beat 'em Ups, Woodhawker. If you're interested, check out his most recent, or some of his most recent videos on this. So he did a bit of an experiment recently. He, in one of his podcast episodes, decided to leak false information on purpose, a rumor, and then tested to see how far that rumor would spread. So on his podcast a few weeks ago, he said that he heard that a Nintendo Direct was going to happen, I think, the following week, and a number of titles would be announced during that Direct. And those titles were really exciting, one of which was going to be a title drop for the new Animal Crossing game. He completely made up this information, but he, quote unquote, leaked it, this rumor, just to see how far it would travel. And it blew up, and then all of a sudden this became a major leak and was kind of misrepresented in the gaming sphere during those weeks. Then he revealed, after the Nintendo, I think the partner showcase happened, and maybe the indie world as well, that he actually made up this rumor, and it was an experiment to see how far rumors would spread and how they would be interpreted and how they would evolve as well. This caused a lot of uproar online. A lot of people were giving him hate for this, created a lot of drama. People were, accusing him of lying to his audience and manipulating his audience. And to say there was a lot of hate directed towards him for that. I find this quite interesting, right? Firstly, my base for this, right? It's not important. We're talking about video games, all right, guys? It's not that deep. Woodhawker Beat 'em Ups, is a YouTuber. His job is to entertain us, to provide content to entertain us, and his niche is gaming. he provided us with entertainment. We're all talking about it. We've all been talking about it, whether you agree with it or not. He did what he does. He did his job. He created an entertaining concept, a creative concept, and an entertaining video that's got us all talking about it. I don't think that he thought it through properly. If I'm being honest, I think he came up with the idea. Oh, I'm gonna spread a false rumor and see what happens, and then kind of latched on the experimental psychological stuff that came later. Because I think if you were trying to do it as a proper experiment, there's probably other ways you could go about doing this. You could have done it anonymously on Reddit, for example, and see how far that traveled, rather than doing it publicly as the most well-known Nintendo YouTuber. But as I say, it was still very entertaining, and I think it was a fun idea. I do get some of the criticism that, can you trust him now when it comes to things like reviews, or is he just trying to pull an experiment? I don't think he would try to do that. Two, I think you've got to also take into account the context here. This is a Nintendo YouTuber who creates entertaining content rather than informative content the vast majority of the time. I think it'd be a little bit different if somebody like Luke Stevens or Spawnwave had done this experiment, where a lot of their content, most of their content is reporting on news, gaming news, and rumors and speculation and leaks, right? If they had purposely leaked fake information, I think that would be a bit of a different situation, because that is what they focus on, and that is not what Wood Beat 'em Ups does. He primarily creates entertaining content about Nintendo. So I think the context really matters here. I might be being a little bit biased because I do really enjoy Beat 'em Ups. He's one of my favorite gaming YouTubers, and he is very entertaining, very, very, very entertaining. So I'm slightly biased, but I just think, guys, let's just get over it. It's not that deep. It was a video. It was fun. We all watched it and talked about it. So yeah, that's that. What else have we got to talk about? So a lot's happened, but a lot has happened, but it's too late to talk about it over the past few weeks. So I only want to talk about things that are sort of known as the tip of our tongues. So I think the last thing I want to talk about is the PlayStation rumors at the moment. This is slightly hypocritical considering I've just been talking about beat 'em ups. Experiments with the spreading of rumors, and the motivation behind that, I should probably say, was that all of us had the Nintendo Switch 2 launch ruined for us because it was all leaked beforehand, and that's really quite depressing and annoying. Even though I did get a lot of enjoyment out at the time, it still would have been better if the console was a complete surprise. But so I do understand the motivation behind that, and whilst I'm saying that, I'm now just going to be a complete hypocrite because we have had a leak this week or last week about the PlayStation 6. Can you believe it? We've finally got to that point where we're now circulating rumors and speculation and supposed leaks about the next PlayStation Xbox console. Here we are. It's finally happening, but it kind of makes sense because was it 2020 that the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S came out? So 2020, sorry, and now we're in 2025. So we're probably due for the next generation of consoles, 2027. And so it was reported in Insider Gaming this week that a source claims to have leaked the main PS6 console specs for the new upcoming PlayStation device, which also includes a handheld version. I'm not going to. So this leaker is Moore's Law is Dead on YouTube. None of these specs, if you really want to go look at this, go look at it yourself, because I can read these specs out and they mean nothing to me. But apparently the PS5 has a Zen 2 based CPU core, and the PS6 will have a Zen 6 CPU core. Apparently that is quite good. It means nothing to me. I'm more interested in the fact that supposedly we're getting a PlayStation 6 handheld. I did see some speculation as well online, or I think it's purely speculation, that the next PS6 generation will have like an option between you can either get it in a handheld version or the console, the main console version, or you might be able to buy a bundle where both are included in the pack, which I would totally get and spend that extra money on. I just love the idea of this. I think handheld gaming for me is just, it has to be the standard now. I just don't have enough time to sit at the sofa and play games when I don't get back from work until like 8:30 at night, and then I have to cook dinner. So to be able to play these first party games in bed is just a game changer. And one of the reasons I was really looking forward to the Nintendo Switch 2 is being able to play some more modern third party titles in bed. Of course, there's always the option of this Steam Deck, of course. So for me, some of my favorite games that I play are on the PlayStation. I've always been a PlayStation fanboy since the very beginning. When I received a PlayStation, my brother and I received PS1 for Christmas one year. I can't remember what year it was, 96 maybe. And we got Bubsy 3D, International Track and Field, I think a Tekken and a Tomb Raider, I think within the first week, maybe. I'll have to check with him. I'll get him on the podcast to check with him. But we've always been PlayStation fanboys since then. So I always prefer the PlayStation first party titles over than most third party titles and titles that you would get on the Xbox. So if I can sit in bed and I can play The Last of Us and God of War, Spider-Man, that sort of stuff, then I would be so happy. Again, you can play some of them on the Steam Deck and some of them you can't. But still, for those first-party titles that are new that come out on the PS6 before anywhere else, if I can play them in bed, then that'll be a dream come true. Can you imagine? I can pick up my Nintendo Switch 2 and play Zelda and Mario and Metroid in bed, and then turn and play the latest, I don't know, The Last of Us or Uncharted or whatever in bed as well. That would just be incredible. So I'm really looking forward to this. I hope it is true. And I also really like the idea of them having, an option of whether you can buy it as a console or as a handheld, and maybe even buy a bundle where you can get both of them together, and then obviously have like cross save between the two. I think that is incredible, and I think that is the future of gaming. So here's hoping that is the case. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be a lot more rumours and speculation over the coming months, like we had with the Switch 2. It's a shame that these things do get ruined, but it does provide us with a little bit of ongoing entertainment and content, doesn't it? So that I've been ranting now for almost 15 minutes, and I think that is pretty much everything that we wanted to cover today. I could go on, but I'm not going to. I'd rather save my energy and play the rest of Mafia, the old country, and then come back and record some more videos for you based on that. But thank you so much for listening today and for watching. Please let me know down below what games you have been playing at the moment. Let me know if you have any recommendations for what games I should play on this thing, the Nintendo Switch Lite, whilst I'm on my honeymoon. Really looking forward to it, and hopefully I will see you all very soon.